Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video. I am Pat from Pat's Path Predictor, and we got some severe weather that's going to be going on for the next 3 days, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. Alright, so this is the situation we have right here. There's 3 slight risk areas for parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, that's one of them. The next is from Colorado down to Oklahoma, that's the second one. And the third one is concentrated in pretty much Kentucky right there. There are a lot of marginal risks, one from Colorado all the way to Virginia and North Carolina. Another one concentrated in Nebraska and South Dakota, and a final one in parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin once again. So that's the situation we have. The tornado threat, it's only concentrated in this area. There's a 5% risk for tornadoes in parts of Kentucky right here. The wind threat is at 15%. This area right here, though, is a hatched risk, which means there's a 15% risk of 75-mile-per-hour winds happening within 25 miles of point. And the hail threats concentrate all over the place at 15% in these 3 areas. So that's the situation we have right here. Here's the summary, and we'll actually go ahead and read the synopsis as well. A couple of tornadoes along with scattered damaging winds and severe hail are possible across Kentucky and the vicinity during the late afternoon and evening. Scattered severe wind gusts, and a couple of which may be significant, are possible from southeast Colorado to the Kansas-Oklahoma border ahead of the late afternoon into tonight. Isolated to scattered large hail and damaging winds are also possible across the northeast and east central Minnesota into northwest Wisconsin during the late afternoon and early evening. Kentucky vicinity along the Missouri-Arkansas border. A pronounced MCV over southern Illinois will track east of the Ohio Valley towards the central Appalachians through this evening. Primary severe potential should eventually emanate out of the south-southwest flank of the MCV, where cloud breaks should support surface-based destabilization in tandem with a plume of low to mid-60s boundary layer dew points spreading east. A fairly tight gradient in Cape is anticipated from the west to east by late afternoon. A couple of supercells should develop in this time frame amid enhanced low and mid-level flow attendant in the MCV. A threat for all severe hazards is possible, although the overall spiral disturbance will likely remain isolated and temporarily confined. In addition to delays, in low-level destabilization, which could limit intensity. Some west to east oriented clustering may linger during the evening, but the severe threat should wane after the MCV outpaces the plume of diurnal destabilization. Further west, isolated thunderstorm development will be possible in the evening along the effective baroclinic zone near Missouri and Arkansas border. Forcing will last to be weak, shallow, and confined to the front, so strong development coverage is uncertain. However, mid-level lapse rates of 8 to 9 Celsius kilometer Cape greater than 3,000 joules per kilogram, and mid-level flow near 40 knots to support a conditional threat for large hail and damaging winds. Let's actually go ahead and check the Cape with this. Let's use the HER model for parts of... We'll actually have to use the Midwest one right here. So let's take a look at it. Convective surface, there it is. There's the Cape. And the Cape, well actually, let's go back to the 17Z right here. The Cape in parts of Missouri right here is cracking 3,000 today. However, the Cape in parts of Kentucky and southern Illinois, for that matter, it's basically, for today, it's not even getting over 2,000. So we might see some hail and damaging winds there, but the majority of the Cape is in parts of southern Missouri and Arkansas right here. So that's basically what we have. That's basically what's going on right here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Southeast Colorado to northern Oklahoma, a cluster of high-end base storms appears probable across southeast Colorado by mid to late afternoon. Immediately east of the mountains in a zone of weak upslope flow and strong surface heating and deep mixing. Rather deeply mixed, inverted thermodynamic... Okay, this thing just updated. Thermodynamic profiles with Cape greater than 1,200 joules per kilogram will favor strong downdrafts and the potential of a storm cluster with occasional severe gusts of 60 to 75 miles per hour from southeast Colorado into the Oklahoma Panhandle this evening. Guidance is fairly consistent that the MCS will impinge on a plume of richer low-level moisture arcing westward across northern Oklahoma. This should help sustain a conveniently generated MCV and maintain the surface cold pool eastward along the southern Kansas and northern Oklahoma border area. At least an isolated severe wind and some hail risk should linger overnight in northern Oklahoma. Let's look at the Cape for these parts as well. Let's go ahead and use that. Let's go ahead let's go to the Central Great Plains one right here. So we'll go back to the 17Z, and the Cape isn't that impressive. We're seeing areas around like 1,500 in parts of Colorado, but the Cape isn't going to remain that impressive. So, if anything, you'll see maybe about 1-inch hail, maybe some damaging winds, but that's pretty much all you're going to see with this. So, yeah, the severe weather threat isn't the best today in some of these areas. In fact, it's only a slight risk in 3 areas. So, let's go ahead and take a look into Minnesota and Wisconsin. A shortwave trough near North Dakota-Manitoba border will progress towards the upper Great Lakes through tonight. An attendant surface cyclone should largely track into the Minnesota-Ontario border with a reinforcing cold front and its south-southwest sweeping east. Despite limited low-level moisture on a larger scale, a corridor of low to mid-50s surface dew points combined with abundant boundary layer heating beneath the mid-level lapse rates and cooling mid-level temperatures cooler than minus 20 Celsius at 500 millibars. That's minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Just to understand that, will support Cape approaching 1,000 joules per kilogram with minimal convective inhibition. Effective bulk shear 40 to 50 knots will mainly straight hydrographs, and the modest buoyancy will be sufficient for at least a few supercells capable of large hail and isolated damaging winds. This threat will diminish rapidly after dusk. Let's go ahead and go to the Northern Great Plains one for the Cape, and as you can see, the Cape isn't very impressive. The dew point temperatures, they're not even that impressive. Temperatures, they're in the 60s. I mean, you might see a little bit of severe weather, but the Cape, all of the ingredients in a lot of these areas is not impressive, and I rarely report on stuff like this because that's essentially what's going on. So that's basically what's going on. The juicy stuff, though, is for day 2. There's an enhanced risk for severe weather in this area right here in Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin, including La Crosse, as well as a slight risk in these areas as well, including Minneapolis and potentially Green Bay. Another slight risk goes from North Carolina all the way to Missouri, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Tornado threats at 5% for both of these areas right here. The wind threat's at 15% right here for both of these areas, but the hail threat is the largest threat in parts of Minnesota, because there is a 30% risk, but not just a 30% risk. There is a 30% risk of a hatched area, which means there's a 30% risk of large hail of 2 inches or more in diameter with happening within 25 miles of a point. So that's the situation we have right here. Summary. Severe thunderstorms appear likely late Thursday afternoon into Thursday night over portions of the upper Midwest. Very large hail, damaging wind gusts, and a few tornadoes all appear possible. Additional strong to severe thunderstorms could occur from southern Missouri eastward into the lower Ohio Valley into the Carolinas. The upper Midwest. A cap should inhibit thunderstorm initiation through much of the day across the upper Midwest. Still, latest guidance suggests the air mass along the south of the warm front will become at least moderately unstable by Thursday afternoon as ample diurnal heating of a moistening low-level air mass occurs and steep mid-level lapse rates overspread the warm sector. Strong deep layer shear of 50-plus knots will likely be present, as well as the mid to upper jet approaches from the west. Initially, discrete supercells are forecast to develop over parts of Minnesota and perhaps northern Iowa by late Thursday afternoon. These supercells should pose a threat for large hail given the favorable thermodynamic and kinetic environments. Any convection that can remain will be at least semi-discrete, may also pose a threat for a few tornadoes early Thursday evening as low-level shear increases in tandem with a strengthening southerly low-level jet. Eventually, one or more small clusters may develop and pose more of a damaging wind threat in eastward extent of the Wisconsin Thursday evening and night. Given increased confidence in supercell development by late Thursday afternoon, has increased the severe hail probabilities and included corresponding enhanced risk areas for parts of southeastern Minnesota, northern Iowa, and western Wisconsin. The southern extent of any appreciable severe risk will probably be limited to the strength of the cap and warm to low to mid-level, temperatures with southward extend in Iowa and north in eastern Nebraska right here. So that's basically what we have there. I want to actually go ahead and take a look at these models right here. Let's go ahead and go back to the 12Z because that's the one that's the most available for the Cape. For parts of Minnesota and Iowa and Wisconsin, it could be better, but it's it's pretty impressive already. The most unstable Cape. We're looking at areas of around 2,000 to 3,000. We're seeing an isolated area potentially up to 4,000 right there in parts of these areas. Then the Cape continues to move on. It cracks 2,000 in a couple of areas. And yeah, the Cape also is in this area as well, from Missouri into the Carolinas. That's why there's a severe risk right there. So that's basically what's going on right now for tomorrow. I'll update you guys as the situation progresses. But let's go ahead and go to day 3. All right, here there's a slight risk for most of Michigan all the way down to Missouri, So they have narrowed this area from all the way down to the Dallas area up to Michigan to Missouri. So let's go ahead and take a look at it, see what's going on. Parts of the Great Lakes into the Southern Plains. A broad region of moderate to locally strong instability is expected to develop along and ahead of the cold front Friday afternoon, as steep mid-level lapse rates overspread relatively rich low-level moisture. The main uncertainty regarding the severe threat is potentially limited large-scale ascent across most of the frontal zone, with the primary mid-level shortwave trough and the surface low expected to move rather quickly northeastward away of the region with time. However, modest convergence ahead of the frontal zone may support widely scattered thunderstorm development by late afternoon and early evening. Deep layer shear will be sufficient for some storm organization, especially for the mid-Mississippi Valley, northeastward into the lower Michigan, where mid-level flow will be somewhat stronger compared to the areas further south. Thunderstorm clusters capable of hail and locally damaging wind appear to be the primary threat. Further south of the southern plains, a secondary surface low development appears possible as a dry line develops from southwest Oklahoma into west Texas. Deep layer flow and shear will generally be weaker in this area, though a weak to shortwave trough will be moving through west Texas, and it may help support a secondary area of storm development with strong instability supporting a localized hail and severe gust threat. I want to actually go ahead and start and use some of the models right here. So this is for the Midwest right here. This is for Michigan. This doesn't go that far out, really that much. Let's go ahead and use the NAM for this then. The Cape, though, is pretty decent, especially in parts of Michigan. We're seeing areas cracking 4,000 in central Michigan right here near Grand Rapids, as well as we're seeing a 3,000 to 3,500 area of Cape for parts of the St. Louis area. In Oklahoma, though, it's pretty crazy. Let's actually go ahead and go to the southern Great Plains. In this area of Oklahoma, we're cracking almost 5,000 in these areas right here. And into Texas, we're seeing 3,000 to 4,000 right here. So that's basically what's going on. I want to actually go ahead and look at the dew point temperatures. They're pretty good for this. They're in the lower 70s in parts of Oklahoma. Let's look at what's happening in the Midwest. They're in the upper 60s in parts of the St. Louis area. They're cracking 70 in Michigan as well. So that's essentially what we have right here. Let's go ahead and use the temperature outlook. It's going to be in the 80s in throughout these areas right here. That cold front is what's going to push this severe weather, and that's what's going to make these storms fire up. Now, to go down to Oklahoma, the temperatures potentially could crack potentially going to crack 100 in some of these areas. So that's not where the severe threat is, but in areas like Dallas, for example, we're looking at 94 degrees. OKC, we're looking at 88. So, yeah, pretty good amount of heat for these storms. So that's basically the situation we have right here. But with that being said, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps me out and helps me make more videos like these. The goal of this channel is to get people more involved with weather, and I hope you guys, after you see this video, you go share it with your friends, share it on Twitter, share it on other social media sites. It would be much appreciated. Also, my next documentary is coming out on Friday. It is premiering at 8 a.m., so I hope you guys enjoy it. Actually, no, it's going to be premiering at 7 a.m. So I hope you guys go check it out. I suggest you do. I put in a lot of work with this one. You're going to really like it. Trust me when I say this. But with that being said, guys, have a wonderful day. Stay safe.